from, well,
All right.
this is the Lydian Spin with Lydia Lush and Tim Dahl. Tim Dahl, I am in Belgrade, Serbia. Great show with Mark Hurtado, Suicide Tribute, amazing, of course. Beautiful women, ugly men. What can I say? Coming home tomorrow. I am ready to come home, though.
Oh, I believe it. I've never played in Serbia before. Have you?
Yeah, I have.
Yeah, I never have. I played
And I will be
Croatia.
back.
Uh,
I will be back.
good, good,
Well,
good.
speaking of playing anywhere, there's
Sure.
so many, there's so many concerts that are being canceled, so many festivals,
Right.
and of course, I love that the idiot Perry Farrell
Oh my
tour
God.
canceled. How dare you even look? Whatever, Dave Navarro, he could have crushed that roach, and he had the dignity of a gentleman to back off. And how dare you? Although, trust me, I have wanted to punch certain people in the middle of a fucking guitar solo myself. I understand. But how about this official sound alarm after music festival spawns spread of dangerous disease
Ugh.
called valley fever? Yeah.
Uh,
Ouch.
yeah.
So, the Lightning Bolt in a Bottle electronic dance festival held in Kern County in May left 19 people sick with infections quadrupling over the last month. So the illness is caused by inhaling the spores of a
Ugh.
fungus endemic
Ugh.
to the southwest United States. Now, better than that, even is, did you hear about the latest Trump rally where 7 of the people who sat behind him didn't know what it was, but they suddenly kind of went almost blind, eyes
No.
burning, face burning,
No.
and they went to the doctor and they're like, "We don't know. You must have been sprayed with something. How about sprayed with bullshit? That must hurt."
Ah.
Just
Well,
saying.
well, I mean, I guess going back to the concert thing, I guess P. Diddy won't be putting on any concert. I mean,
He shouldn't have been diddling his P Diddy for so much.
he was denied bail.
Unbelievable.
I mean, he's fucked.
Well,
I
you know
mean,
what? He fucked others and then he gets fucked. And you know what? Let me just say this to all of yous out there, yous who are fucking people over, no names mentioned. You
right.
will be fucked in the fucking head, and probably right where you deserve to be fucked. So fuck off.
Oh,
Anyway, I thought this was interesting because, especially, I mean, we know a lot of people who have ADHD, PTSD. World first ADHD headband
what?
treats symptoms in 20 minutes per day.
So
What forensic?
what's happening there? How does that work?
Well, an innovative startup company is due to change just the way that, attention deficit, give them medication, whatever. But instead, this is like electronic stimulation. An Australian company called Neurode, founded by a neuroscientist and an engineer. They have raised almost 4 million US dollars to get this device to market. And they have a wait of thousands of people wanting to try it, of course. So it's no surprise they've received so much interest. But, I mean, technology, when used correctly, can cure a lot of shit.
Sure, sure. Well, technology, specifically porn sites, haven't really helped Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina, who
Oh,
did you heard about this? I mean,
what an idiot.
yeah, I mean, I guess he was going on porn sites in his alias, or he was referring to himself as a black Nazi. And
I mean, oxymoronic.
oh my God, I mean,
Right now, the intelligence of the American public in politics is just minus,
There's another thing
minus.
to know about Mr. Robinson is that he's ardently against transgender rights, but he bragged heavily on this site about how much he liked to look at tranny porn.
well, of course. I mean, that's seems to be consistent. The people are the most against these things are, well, there's a reason why they're thinking about it all the time. I mean,
Look, the guilty are always suspicious. We know this. Hello, real life sighting here. And that's what happens. I mean, I think it's just a calamity of terror that's happening now. And I happen to kind of like it. Now, Tim, I don't know if you looked out the window last night in your stupor
well,
with Simon Slater.
Well,
that
there was a pretty impressive moon, if that's what we're
well,
referring
the
to.
Earth is about to get a second mini moon for 2 months this year.
What does that mean? What do you mean a
Well,
second?
okay. The moon last night was amazing. It was like a super moon with a partial eclipse. But so researchers at the Asteroid Terrestrial Impact Last Alert System, an asteroid monitoring system, have spotted an asteroid using and again, this is in South Africa, and they've said that in much like our moon, it's going to orbit our planet, but for only about 56 days. So while other non-Earth objects they're called NEOs, have entered Earth's orbit before, some don't complete full revolution of Earth. However, some do, and then they're called mini moons. So an asteroid called 2020 CDC, bound for several years before leaving the planet's orbit in 2020, and another called 2022 NXI, became a mini moon 1981 and 2022. And they're returning, those ones will return again in 2025. But in 2024, PT5, which is larger, is about to return to Earth's orbit. So Earth's gravity pulls in these asteroids occasionally, and some have negative geocentric energy, meaning they can't escape Earth's gravitational pull. They'll orbit around the Earth in a horseshoe shape before reverting back to heliocentric energy, meaning it will rotate around the sun again. So even after it leaves the orbit, it'll stay near the Earth for a few months. So this is what we have to look forward to on January 9th, 2025.
Oh, well,
and then after that, it's another 30 years.
I wonder how big it will appear in the sky. I'm curious.
You know, it's a mini moon, so I don't know. But last night, the major moon looked pretty beautiful.
Yes, it did. Quite stunning, in fact. Let's see here. Oh yeah, well, they found the remains of Titan, the submarine that imploded. And
Titanic.
Yeah. It landed 900 feet from the stern of the Titanic. So I guess they got close after all, or at least that.
I mean, you know what? The vanity and the egotism of these, baby billionaires kind of deserve to crash on the bow or bow of the Titanic.
They did release
going down.
The final communication was like, just checking in, and the people were like, "How is everything?" It's like, "Everything's great." They're all excited, and then, well,
we know what
happened shortly after that.
Look, I've been now 4 times to Europe this year. There's so much unexplored terrain, so much empty, beautiful space.
Yeah.
So much available space that when people have to go to the deep sea, and of course we need exploration, but not by billionaire idiots, eco terrorism at its worst, or by going to the moon or Mars. We need to do more exploration about what exists here for people to actually cultivate. Let's face it.
Well, I think I've asked you this before. Would you rather, if it was guaranteed,
would I rather be eaten by a shark or die by an electric car?
No. Would you rather go to outer space for an hour, or the greatest depths of the ocean for an hour? If it's guaranteed,
I'd go to the deepest depths because
it's kind of.
I mean, there's so much there we don't even know. It's like, why don't we go in instead of going out?
Well, there you go.
That's what I'm saying. I like to go in. Don't you like to go in occasionally?
No, well, I think I do. I think
you got to go in to get out.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway, I'm glad I'll be joining you soon.
Oh yes.
For a while.
Real quickly, on Wednesday I saw Sexy Red, the female rapper, in Barclays Center, and oh boy, was that a show. You know what's really weird about it? Well, first of all, it took us an hour to get in. It was just chaos inside. Fights galore, all types of stuff. And I would say 60% women, and like 99.9% African American. I mean, I was thinking, rappers, by the time they play arenas, I'm like, okay, the white crowd's kind of into them. So I was expecting that. I was like, what? Not really. I guess not with this show. And the women were basically all strippers in the audience. And Sexy Red goes, "Any hoes in the audience?" And the place exploded.
Hell, it must have exploded.
Exploded. I wish I had that on video.
Must have exploded.
Oh, yeah. It was
I have the opposite problem. Very entertaining. concerts. I have all white chicks that aren't hoish enough. Hello, does that
There you
relate
go.
to anybody we know? Hello,
Oh.
non-ho-hos. Just saying, ho ho ho.
Oh boy.
Anyway, I mean, really, look. Speaking about extra or interterrestrial, comedic, outrageous explanations for things we don't even comprehend. I'm excited that you introduced me to our next guest, Steve Furst, British
Yeah.
comedian, actor, started a magazine called The Heckler. How could I not love that? I mean, and that's all I got to say because Tim Dahl, I will be with you in less than 24 hours.
There we go. There we go. Yes.
All right. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch. Tim Dahl coming up. Steve Furst, a mastermind of British comedy. Where the hell am I? I believe I am in Vienna. Tim Dahl is in, where are you, Tim?
I'm at Simon's in Brooklyn, your neighborhood.
Brooklyn, my neighborhood. And then with our special guest, Steve Furst. Where are you? You're in London.
I am in London. Yeah. Yeah.
Multinational, as usual, the Lydian Spin. Let me just say a few words about Steve Furst. Comedian, writer, and I have to admit, I must love that you created a magazine called The Heckler, as I am a professional heckler. London stage in many forms, and with us tonight. So thank you very much. I just came off the stage doing my tribute to the group Suicide, highly controversial. And I have a feeling that you might be about controversial yourself. Steve, so how are you and what's going on right now?
You know, I'm very good. Thank you for asking. We've got a connection. I haven't seen him for a while, but Jim Sclavinus was
Jim Sclavinus. Oh,
yeah. So
we go way back.
I've spent many a happy evening with him making cocktails and regaling me with wonderful New York 70s tales.
He's a bit of a comedian. Tim, he's a bit of a comedian himself, Jim Sclavinus.
He's one of the most kind of droll, just very wry, arch, doesn't speak without thinking. The filter's always engaged, but when he speaks, it's always just piercing and to the point.
Well, it's like a dagger. It's like darts. He's hitting the bullseyes. Yeah,
it really is. Yeah,
I have to say, doing musical projects with him, of which I've done a few, and now he's, I will say, passed over to other gardens of evangelical whatever. He's gone from teenage Jesus to an evangelical. I'm not mentioning any names, but he's very wry and great sense of humor. And the thing is, look, we here at the Lydian Spin, people don't realize I view myself as, I was just on tour with a comedian, stand-up comedy, stand-up tragedy. I think I'm fucking funny.
Yeah. You need to have the self-belief. Otherwise, there's no point getting on stage.
But now comedy, though, and I want your opinion because you are a quote-unquote professional comedian, is it not all really from tragedy?
I would have to say, because I don't really do stand-up as me. I've always done character comedy, and that interests me far more, the ability to say all the things that I didn't have the balls to say as myself. And then, but of course, the older that we get and the more the kind of the armor comes off, the laissez-faire, don't give a fuck attitude really kicks in. And I'm much happier standing on stage now and, being like, well, take it or leave it.
And do you not feel, excuse me, Tim, I'm sorry to cut in, but I feel, because I do many musical projects, but I love being solo on stage with a microphone. I find it one of the most powerful positions to be in, if you've got the balls to do it.
Yeah. And it's funny, I did a gig on last week at my friend's shop in Hastings, and he's unlicensed, so you can't have any amplification. And it was a joy, just the two of us. Ooh. Sat there with guitars. Another guy joined us on piano, and it was just that kind of swapping of stories and interjecting during songs, and it just felt very. I'm just much happier doing that kind of gig. I mean, of course, you don't get paid anywhere near as much, but there's a real
Well,
untrammeled
Steve, you better
joy.
come over to my side because actually I get paid more to do solo gigs than I do with musicians, but that's just me.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously the economics of not having a band, I found this out only a few years ago, and that's where I've been. I used to have like it was like a 6-7 piece band and then guest acts, and as time has gone on, the show is becoming more and more kind of it's the distillation now of what it used to be.
Well, I mean,
Understandable.
the popular music of the 30s, of course, was big band, and then basically technology and economy allows it to shrink and shrink and shrink to the point where, because now it's basically one person and a computer essentially. Then I think the next step is just a computer, no person at all.
Exactly.
but
I'm just going to send my lips on stage.
But it's interesting. I see all the instruments behind you, and
They look pretty good. I mean, I see it. Is that a red Fender behind you?
Yeah,
Do you know what? That was my first. That's my first. That's an actual. It's a Squire. It's Japanese.
My favorite
Squire.
guitar.
Yeah, and it was 1980. It was the first one I bought. It was 1985.
And you have the Firebird bass, and you got a Nord synth,
and then there's a Taylor and an Epi and
you
and
are well equipped, my friend.
But they're not. You know that thing of like they're almost brilliant, but they do their job. They're fine.
Let's go back to the Squire for a minute. Hang on, because Robert Quine, one of my favorite guitar players, picked out my first Squire, and I still have it. And I have to say, I think it's a pretty fucking cool object to have.
It really is.
You have a red one. I have a cream colored one.
Well, sometimes the Squires can be better. Like a P-bass Squire can be better than a P-bass Fender, or a P-bass. Or a Strat Squire could be better than a Strat, but you have to be lucky and get one of the good ones. So statistically, it won't be, but then they can be better actually.
No, you gotta check. Let's talk about musical comedy with music, because musical comedy. I mean, I have to say, I do like Dennis Leary. I'm an asshole.
Yeah.
Dennis Leary, I think, is brilliant on many fronts. I think Bo Burnham is brilliant on many fronts.
Yeah, but Lydia, at the same time, not like a literal hybrid or fusion of music comedy. Listening to Thelonious Monk play the piano, that's funny sometimes. It's so brutal. And one thing about comedians and musicians, it's all about timing, really. And so you'll see comedians who can play music, or musicians who are basically comedians, but actors trying to be musicians, serious actors, that's usually sucks.
Well, now back to you, Steve. So wait.
I completely agree with that. My shit itches more than anything when an actor goes, and now, I'm going to take a year out to tour my new album. And I know people that have played in the band, but he's a lovely guy. But invariably the music, because it'll be po-faced. There'll be no element of self.
Why don't you just tell us some of the actors you hate who have done music?
Fuck me. I mean, Damian Lewis, a great actor. I mean, a phenomenal actor. But that album, I mean, sucks balls.
I mean, and by the way, he's dating Mosshart of the Kills, who's a great musician.
Yeah. Absolutely, I know.
I'm going to tell you my least favorite, Julia Lewis.
Oh, is that right? Okay, yeah. Okay.
Well, there's any now. So, what makes us different?
There's a funny thing. Because I find myself in the middle of all of these avenues and roads, and I have for years. And I suppose I've got imposter syndrome, but across about 5.
Oh, wait, you got what?
Imposter syndrome. But it doesn't just bleed into one area; it bleeds into many areas. So it's
because you're not just one thing.
Because because exactly.
You need to rub up against me. I have the opposite of imposter syndrome. I have I don't even know what you call it. I'm just like my biggest fan. You need to rub up against me, Steve, first, because you are an actor, you're a writer, you are a comedian of sorts.
Yeah.
You bring people together. You do musical comedy. And back to the musical comedy. It's very tricky train to ride.
It is. Yeah. I mean, I was very lucky. I wanted to do I'm best known for doing, certainly in the UK, for doing a character called Lenny Beige. There's a kind of cabaret, there was is a sort of
bless us with a song or a piece from Lenny Beige.
Well, Lenny's kind of, Lenny was one.
By the way, excuse me, my father's name was Lenny. Carry on.
I wanted to do a character that was in part kind of an all-round entertainer, but also had elements of anarchy in it. But he was dressed in a kind of, in velvet and the wig, and would always go on about the wig.
What color velvet? What color velvet? What kind of wig?
panoply of different colors. And I had a tailor that made me a suit every single week. They never lasted, but
By the way,
it was
Steve, let me just interrupt. Right now, you look like you have two horns on your head from the Fender Squire behind you. This is only audio, but I'm enjoying your horns. So you had a tailor that made you a suit. Who is this motherfucker? I need this guy.
This guy's
a velvet suit of different colors.
It was called William Hunt, and every week I'd get to the stage door at the club, and there would be another suit. And
what was your favorite one? Color?
Well, it was actually the first one, which was monogrammed with LB it was all trimmed. It was
Lenny Beige.
Beautiful. And, there's some have lasted and many that didn't, but anyway, so I had this kind of character that was on the face of it quite kind of smooth and quite loquacious.
The
ladies' man. But yeah, exactly. But what I wanted to do musically was to kind of push it into slightly unusual areas. So I would do covers of songs that you go, all right, he's doing that. He's doing that. And
what covers? What covers specifically?
Well, we started off by kind of mining kind of obscure Tom Jones and soul stuff and doing and then we kind of went into some kind of more psychedelic stuff, and we'd throw in a Sid Barrett here, or we.
I love cover songs. I've done a few, but I love the idea of just you re-inhabiting cover songs.
Yeah, now, but not doing it in
Tom Jones.
Well, but it wasn't doing it. It was kind of those things that you go, oh, I sort of know that song. I'm not sure why I know that song, but I like that song and I like that version of the song. You don't want to do the ones that, oh yeah, he's going to be singing a cheesy version of Wonderwall like Mike Flowers.
Trust me, I've done a Three Dog Night trilogy that nobody knew what the fuck I was doing because they never wrote songs. Yeah. That was Eli's Coming. Mama told me not to come, and one is the loneliest number. Right. I get it.
Yeah,
but again,
exactly.
I think I'm a fucking comedian. Nobody gets it.
But I think that's exactly the kind of pitch that I would have done for Lenny, that kind of Three Dog Night. So my theme tune became the Spencer Davis group, I'm a Man, which was I'm Lenny Beige. So it was like, so it was that funky motif, but then changing the lyrics. So it was the reference points. Well, I was big into Northern Soul, so there were a couple of Northern Soul tracks. So it was bringing in my influences, but in a way that people wouldn't go, oh yeah, we know this one. I like people to kind of go in their own voice.
Right, take it slightly left of center.
Field, always. And consequently, the acts that we had, like Elephant Man Elvis, Spanky Botty Shakespeare.
Wait a second. Can you just repeat those two titles again?
Yeah, Elephant Man Elvis, and these are acts that do exactly what they say on their respective tins. He was he came out with the full Elephant Man head, but I am not an animal, I am the king. And he would do the full Elvis show. It was beautiful. Spanky Botty Shakespeare was
I just have to say that Spanky Bottom Shakespeare.
Yep. Actor would come out.
I'm sitting down, but I'm getting a little bit twitchy while you say that. I have to admit.
Oh my God. The guy was an out of work actor who was big on the S&M scene, and he would find a girl and say, I've got an act. He was an American actor called Jonathan. He went, I got this act. Would you come to my friend's cabaret club? And he made them dress in a kind of like a floaty dress. He would be in the full doublet and hose. He would walk out, lute music. There would be a chaise longue on stage. She would bend over him. He would reveal the buttocks, and he would just recite sonnets whilst whacking her backside.
This sounds like a fun evening over at the Lydian Lounge, I must say.
Do you know what I mean?
Be spiking his back. I might be spanking his backside. I think tit for tat is a fair turnaround. I'm just saying. Some of us are more resilient than others. Were there any complaints about the spanky bottom?
You know what? We never. This was the heyday of that club was 96 to 2000, 2001. And then every year we would bring a Christmas show back, and the number of acts that used to do the club would sort of dwindle, and the audience was getting younger, and we were finding we were having to make excuses.
And you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly. So
did you ever get your bottom spanked? I have to ask.
Not on stage. Not on stage. The
I
backstage
had
shenanigans.
a feeling.
Question: have you ever been attacked for your performance by a because you know the heckler, and I mean, has a heckler or anyone ever physically try to attack you?
Not in a kind of, they're the kind of the people that are too drunk to kind of concentrate and want to be part of the show. And at the end of the show, it would always get, you know, there'd be a kind of, everyone was dancing. We have 400 or 500 people in this place, and they would feel, oh, it's okay because there are a few people who've already come on stage. Yeah, it's a gang show now, and it's like, it is a gang show, but you're not in the gang. And
I always think it's a gangbang me against everybody else, and I will take them all on. Hey, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be tricky. I mean, because I do stand-up tragedy, so I have a way of quelling the audience. They know best not to interject. But that wasn't the way it was in the beginning. I mean, I had to learn to become a professional heckler, hence why I love the name of the magazine you started.
Well, it just seemed like the obvious choice for a magazine about comedy. It's like, you know, we're sounding off about certain acts, and, you know. But I think
that's what I respect, is I find it comedians, the difference between me and a comedian is the comedians understand the punchline. I'm waiting to punch somebody.
Right. Yeah. I'm all for a bit of, you know, keeping the ball in the air and having banter with the audience. It's when the banter stops and it becomes a dialogue. I mean,
when they're drunk.
Yeah.
We got work to do. You're not part of the fucking scene. You know what's interesting is only in about 45 years of performing, only once have I had a woman interrupt my show. And the rest, of course, and I don't blame them, in the beginnings were men, because they just couldn't understand that actually I was defending them.
Right.
In my anti-patriarchal, you know, rat-a-tat-tatting. But once was a woman. And I think probably in comedy, it's usually the drunken men that want to get in on the show, I would imagine.
Well, it is, but also, I mean, I have to say some of the worst behaved have been drunk women. And it just, you know, I think the problem
the British are different.
Yes, they are.
Well, and throw drugs into the equation as well, and you got, you know, it's like people going off like landmines, and I think when you're mixing music with comedy, the expectation is different. If it's people are coming just to see a stand-up show or a stand-up honest stand-up tragedy show or a storytelling show, they're going to have that head on. But if you're plying people with cheap white wine and no food for hours, and then expecting them to sit quietly and then, you know, be kind of sentient. Impossible. So you create your own madness. And I wanted to create what was a modern freak show and did
it.
So that, So, but that comes at a cost, but it's a very small cost. And actually, you know, those stories of people overstepping the mark are few and far between, I think.
Well, and also, I mean, it is what gives us, you know, it's an education that only those really dedicated to the art of either stand-up comedy or tragedy are going to be able to face and deal with. You have to deal with it.
You do. I mean, I have to say, well, walking into the arena and having a character that talks about with a huge sense of pride about his wig and the different wigs that he's had, flame retardant for certain particular, you know, if I go out and I take a young lady out for dinner, I have to have the flame retardant wig if there's a naked flame, otherwise I'll go up like an oil refinery. So if you're talking about wigs, and then people will want to see what's underneath the wig. I get that, but I
see what's underneath the wig. A big brain is underneath the wig.
Well, yeah, a man that's not just bald but taller than his hair, and it's that thing of having to keep the wig on, even though it is a wig, and you're talking about it as a wig. There has to be there's the velveteen roped cordon around it. So.
Well, I understand, because if people really knew what I was, if they really saw me, I'd be a big bald black man driving a truck, running those motherfuckers over. So we're kind of the same thing, but opposite.
Steve, if you were to generalize, do you prefer a witty on the silly side humor or mean-spirited humor?
I
would say I never enjoy mean-spirited humor.
Really?
I think it's so fucking easy.
But the subtext of the best mean humor is actually kind of love, I find. Not dumb, ignorant, but
wait, Tim, there was a time when mean-spirited humor was point on. And when it was done with a certain kind of panache, I mean, like a Don Rickles, like a Joan Rivers, like
Rodney
a Phyllis
Dangerfield,
Diller.
Yeah.
Like a
Rodney
Rodney
Dangerfield.
Dangerfield.
But there's you know, but there's something that the intent of it is still there's some joy there. There's
absolutely.
You know,
and it depends on who it's aimed at.
Yeah.
And when it's aimed at, like, for instance, Don Rickles aiming at Frank Sinatra, you got to go right on, motherfucker, right on.
Well, it's interesting because there's subtext. So you could have two people reading the exact same joke, and one comes across as loving and insightful and caring, and the other one just comes across as an ignorant shithead.
Well, actually, something funny. I think with Sinatra, there was there's a meanness and a kind of just a side that I never warmed to. I mean, as a voice, fantastic, but I was always, you know, Sammy was my man, and Dino, and you
still
know,
is. I mean, I was never into
yeah.
Frank Sinatra. I think he did one good song, and I thought he was kind of a whatever. But I mean, I have to love when Don Rickles, when he would confront Frank Sinatra.
Yeah. And I've kind of come
that's
very
a very
late
different
to those
period.
people. Well, the whole Don Rickles and who was the other one that we were saying that I just Dangerfield. You know, I've come late to those people, and oh my God, because we didn't get them on TV in England. So, you know, it was.
So who did you, I mean, first of all, what made you decide, okay, comedy is the route? Because it's a very difficult, lonely, painful route, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, which is why I stopped doing stand-up comedy, because I realized that, and I didn't enjoy being myself on stage. But what I did want to do, is create, but also create a club that for 5 or 6 years we had this freak show, and people would come to us. And it felt like a family. I mean, you know, the risk of sounding schmaltzy, it felt like a family. And so when I go into a show now, if I go, because I do musicals again, I've got, you know, and I'm going back into another one this Christmas, and I like that, you know, I like being part of a family again, because I'm, you know, I'm a single guy, so it's quite nice going, okay, you're going to be my family for 3 months, and in 3 months, I'm never going to want to see you again. But
and I understand, because I mean, I do things that I consider are salons, where I book various people, solo acts,
that name.
Music, stand-up, whatever. It is a family, and it's very important. And it's also important to curate, because look, we have to create our own worlds. And when you do that, the people will come who need to be there.
Yeah.
So you really cut out the dross. I mean.
Right.
And after being so established as this, and so how long, you just said for about 5 or 6 years, you were doing this kind of salon presentation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a big club. You know, we had it was sort of quite intense, and then we had 2 teleseries off the back of it for the BBC, and then it kind of just went, and that's fine, because then I pushed into doing other things. But I miss the creation of those big shows and doing that. And as you more than anyone knows, putting these shows together is prohibitively expensive. You're never going to make any money, and selling tickets has become an absolute. Who knew that selling tickets was going to be this hard? You know,
right?
It's horrible.
I mean, getting people out of their house and off their phone screen.
I know.
And what's amazing is when you think of these people that have 0 to 0 talent, but have 1 million followers on YouTube. You're like,
exactly.
What the fuck are we doing wrong?
I know.
Like, what have we not done after all these decades doing what we do? It's like, what do we have to do that we don't understand because we're not dumb enough?
So they don't. The audience who's addicted to these screens, they kind of forget what they're missing. It required a full.
They don't know.
A full sun eclipse that happened across New York this year, where everyone came out of the house. I was like, I kind of missed the collective experience. I mean,
and then what did they do? They probably tried to film the eclipse on their phones constantly, you know. But it's that thing.
By the way, tonight is, we're recording this on the night after the night of the lunar eclipse, which outside my window, there is a big fucking beautiful, almost red moon. That's the night we're recording this.
But I mean, so
now let's just talk about who's up and coming or on now that I'll tell you your dangle.
Well, I will tell you quite a depressing fact that I heard, and it's that because, you know, I used to go up to the Edinburgh Festival like loads of us did, and that's become prohibitively expensive. You need at least £10,000–15,000 just to put on a show up there. And we all did that.
When you talk about the Edinburgh Festival, what did you say?
The Edinburgh Fringe Festival.
Oh,
yeah.
Fringe Festival, yeah.
Forget about it. Yeah.
So, this was where we all went up with a promoter, and the promoter would take the hit, say, booked you in for this. I've got you an apartment here. And then you might not break even, but he would or she would take the rap for it. Fine.
Very important at a certain point in time for a lot of people.
Completely. But now now producers aren't going up because there are no TV shows to put these people on that are being scouted.
Right.
So they can get whoever they need for whatever show they need by spending a day on TikTok looking at all the big hits.
I didn't even think about that. Okay.
I mean, is it really a deficit of our generation that did we miss the boat on this? Because it's like, I've never even seen one TikTok. I'm not sure I want to, and I'm certainly not going to do one. What is our problem, Steve?
Well, I understand why people are doing it. I mean, I've had to dip my toe into the water, and there's nothing wrong with it per se. There's some good stuff there will always be good stuff that rises to the top. But what people are missing out on by not doing Edinburgh, or not even as a producer not doing Edinburgh, is the shared experience, and that
and the live
arena
vibration of the energy that is presented from living creatures creating something right there for you. For instance, tonight, so I just came from a show. I shut down anybody with their cell phone. I'm like, this is live. Stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it.
Yeah.
And they were always and I'm like, excuse me. And of course I have a piece of actually, you have become the spies of the government with your Instagram, your TikTok, your Facebook.
You're doing their job. You're doing their job for them.
You are doing. This is 1984 in sideways, and people have sucked into it.
Yeah,
and that's just not what our generation is.
Well, it's interesting, Steve, because there are some collective experiences, or as John Waters likes to put it, that's why the rebellion's anonymous suddenly, and there's no conspicuous fashion because the shared experience is a million people scattered over the whole globe, as opposed to a regional concentration where there's the people are coming out of their houses and gathering in mobs, and it's.
Can I just pick you up? So I was just going to say, it's so beautiful that you mentioned John Waters, because my daughter, my eldest, is 22. She is obsessed with John Waters. Now, if I think I've done anything, I've created an offspring,
a female monster,
fucking that loves it. Anyway, she took herself off to Connecticut this weekend from London to go to John Waters camp, where she's just said, she's back in New York this week. She said, it's been the best weekend of my life. I've just met my tribe. And I'm like, and were you the youngest? Oh yeah, by a long shot.
But I didn't know there was a John Waters camp.
And
you've bred a female monster of the highest order.
Thank you. And and he's there, and he addresses them, and you get to meet him, and Melanie Griffiths was there, and I know, I love it. Wow. Anyway, but yeah, the collective experience.
He gave me and Tim the best introduction of our life at a festival 2 years ago. And I've always asked John Waters, the casting couch, John, I'm ready. He goes, I don't have one. I go, but I do. Are you waiting for me to be as old as Mick Stoll or as fat as Divine? It's not going to happen. I have performed with John Waters many years ago. Oh. And what people don't know about him is, of course, he's amazing. He's really handsome in person. He kind of looks like an old school movie star.
No, he's definitely grown into his look, hasn't
he? Yeah, he has good looks. But I'll also say, if I may, he's actually more flamboyant in person than he is in terms of how he's presented.
He saw a show that Tim and I did where I was reading the letters of Eileen Wuornos, the serial killer, and his comment was very beatnik.
Nice.
We'll accept.
That's what he said.
Yeah. We'll accept. Very beatnik. That's cool.
Love it.
Who when you were coming up, who were you looking up to as either a comedian or a musical comedy or as an actor?
I just say,
really inspired you?
When I was growing up, it was all of those. I mean, I just couldn't get enough of. I mean, I was a huge, it's the Monty Python thing. It's sort of very dull and predictable.
Yeah, come on, I mean, but you're geniuses.
But then you get into then I started getting more when I started discovering live comedy and being able and I was like, oh my God, Jerry Sadowitz and people. Then, as you say, that when Dennis Leary came over and Bill Hicks,
Oh, Bill. I mean, and by
those
the way,
people
let's
were
just pause there for a
life-changing.
minute, because what the beauty is with Bill Hicks, he wasn't a comedian. He was a social satirist.
Yeah,
The same way George Carlin
was. Exactly. It's that. So I think, as you get a little bit older and more politically aware and attuned, then those sort of people come onto your radar. But then, but stand up as an art form doesn't particularly excite me. But I still get most excited by music more than anything.
But what about somebody like John Cooper Clarke, who's funny because he's so right on? I mean,
I will say,
John Cooper Clarke.
I shared a dressing room with him for a year in Edinburgh at the
For
Edinburgh
a
Festival.
year.
Well, in 1994, for the duration of the festival, he was doing his usual poetry. It was 4:30
So
in the afternoon,
amazing.
and just doing. And we came in later to perform the Gary Glitter story.
Wait a minute! I just got goosebumps. The Gary Glitter story.
So this was 1994. Sadly, now expunged from my CV.
I couldn't imagine why.
I've had to.
There has to be a new Gary Glitter story.
There'd be a great third act.
Out of prison, back in again. I mean.
But this is.
Actually, it should be the Gary Glitter story, because
he wasn't interested.
Such an amazing person. Has not changed. Looks the same. Poetry the same. Poetry.
It was like Marquis Smith. It's like, there's that Manchester, just dour but brilliantly funny, and so.
I bugged Marquis Smith for years to do a spoken word show with me, and when he finally did, he was so drunk and fucked up. It was fucking atrocious.
Yeah.
But it was Marquis Smith. What are you going to do? What do you expect?
I know. But that's the annoying thing is, because when you hit that sweet spot with him, it's just it's just perfect.
Because John Cooper Clarke was always on the mark.
Yeah, I think it was, but he always knew. I think he there was never a except for the drug years, there was never a really big self-destruct button with him live.
What kind of music were you into when you were coming up? Were you into there's so much great music out of the UK at that point.
Yeah, and it's certainly, I was obsessed by the Smiths and other bands, but even now I get so, when I hear a band that I'm like, fuck, they're amazing, and I can't,
Like who? Like who?
There's a band called Fat Dog at the moment that are great.
Fat or flat?
Fat Dog.
Never heard of them. Never heard of them.
They just released their first album. In fact, they're coming to America next month, and they're kind of techno, trance, psychedelic, and funny. They're funny. Let
me recommend Tina Kitt out of the UK, Brighton and London.
Who's that?
Tina Kitt, who are so booted, suited, beautiful, violent music. It really harkens back to the early birthday party.
Look, I'm writing it down, Lydia. I'm writing it down in the book. I've got to write it.
They've been on the podcast. I still love. I heard a song by the Buzzcocks the other day. I'm like, I'm not that into punk rock, pop punk either, but I love the Buzzcocks, I must say.
Right.
Yeah. Steve, this comedian, this British guy, he's not shown in America, but I discovered for myself. I'm curious what you think of Chris Morris. I was checking the show Jam.
Genius. The man was and is one of the greatest satirists.
It blew me away. I still
have you listened to Blue Jam?
No.
Right. Blue Jam was you can get it online. Blue Jam was his radio show.
I gotta check that out. I have no idea.
Late 90s, early noughties. And it's so fucking dark, and at times you don't know, because it was designed to listen to in that weird hinterland where you're coming down before you're sleeping. Am I asleep? Did I dream I heard that? You put the radio on, you're not sure. And it is his greatest output ever. It's extraordinary.
I gotta check that. So it's better than the TV show Jam.
Yeah, well, that's what the show's based on. That
spin-off. I didn't even realize that. I didn't even realize
the audio is
what do you think the difference is between American and British comedy? For instance, Peep Show, which I think is amazing, but there's a Canadian show I really love called Lenny Beige, which is about just this. It's just so ridiculously Canadian and outrageous. That's really amazing. It has like 20 seasons on. I'm going to send you the link.
Oh, is that right? Okay.
What do you think? Yeah, do you think there's a real? I think there is a difference between American and British
I don't know.
comedy. What do you think it is?
There's a weird, because I think now with technology, there's this kind of, I'm enjoying the same comedy as a lot more people that I was unaware of in America, and likewise. So I think, I think there's fundamentally a huge lack of irony, of course, with Americans. But when you do hit the sweet spot, it's hands down better than anything that we do at the moment.
What do you think of the the legendary black African American comedians, Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy?
Love Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy,
Chris Rock, etc.
Yeah, fucking love. I mean, for me, when I still think Louis C.K. is the greatest comic of his generation.
Well, by the way, I did a Louis C.K. stalking video 2 years before he was busted for doing what I think every man should do, if he asks. Wanting to masturbate over you. What about Bo Burnham? Do you know who he is?
Yeah, I do. And it was my daughter who introduced me to Bo Burnham. And I think I love that kind of level of creativity where you go, okay, I'm in this situation. And
but what about being 21 and having to drop out for 5 years because you are having panic attacks from being so popular?
Well, yeah, I mean,
did you see Inside?
Oh, yeah.
That's
yeah.
And I thought that was great because it's not really comedy. It's seeing a man who's come undone trying to repair.
I think he's a phenomenal songwriter. It's funny that thing of uncomfortable comedy, and he just won the 3 Emmys for Baby Reindeer. It's like
he had part of Baby Reindeer.
It's a great, these things. It's a great show, but it's not quite. I wouldn't put it in the comedy category. And I think when it comes to telling personal tales, it's very different from, I grew up watching great Woody Allen films. I still think some of those.
Oh yeah, they're incredible.
Some of the best films ever made.
I mean,
I mean, fucking just, Midnight Sex comedy. I mean, there's so many beautiful Annie Hall, Zelig, Radius. I mean, they're just astonishing works of genius.
Well, everything you want to know about sex. I mean, that is.
Oh my God.
The thing with Gene Wilder and the fucking Lamb is just.
I know.
Unbelievable.
And then, to go from that to making some of the most sophisticated. I mean, the Broadway Danny Rose is still, it would be in my top 10 films.
What about his stand-up? His old stand-up? Are you into that?
Love that.
Yeah.
And that, because I had a record of that, we could get that. And because we've seen that film where we got, oh my God, did you know we did stand up? We've you kind of, in the time that someone would make a cassette of something and give it to your friend because you were
let's just talk about the controversy for a minute, because in this time of great transition, there's so much controversy about bad behaviors that people have done. And the thing is, you can hate the behavior, but the art remains, or you can hate the art, the behavior remains. And the same with someone like Polanski, who I think is a total genius. It was different times. I don't, people need to understand the responsibility of also taking responsibility for themselves.
But Lydia, I think there's something about the general public. If the person's still alive, it's hard for them to, sever their expression from the person. You give basically any tragedy or insane crime 100+ years.
And look, let's face it, crimes against women and men are constant, universal, and forever.
Yeah.
Now more and more become apparent to the public eye, and that is beyond comedy or tragedy. That is unfortunately horrific human nature.
Yes.
Now from that sometimes comes really incredible fucking art, because especially those that have been traumatized, who might then go on to cause trauma, are the ones that usually create incredible art.
I mean, I think
it's a very difficult road to dissect.
Well, Lydia, I think it's funny that Beethoven was arrested twice as a peeping Tom, and no one talks about that. And I guess some people would be upset if
that's all only twice.
Look at a window and they see a guy masturbating, but and it was Beethoven. He wasn't like not known at the time. Is
that true? I'd never heard the peeping Tom.
That's true. And he said he also got kicked out of an apartment because he was defecating on the floor of his living room.
I heard the word death.
You know what? You dare shit in my palace, I will kick you out. I'm just saying, I want to just rephrase this. Many people that have been traumatized become artists. And within that, It is only to help to try to relieve or understand or share with other people the traumas they face.
Yes.
But that doesn't mean just because they've been predated upon, they are not going to be a predator. And this is a problem. And I think the issue is this. People, men and women, have to be more responsible for not only their actions, but their reactions to things that happen. The world is not how you want it to be. Sexual relations are not perfect. And we have to both be stronger in knowing what we will tolerate, what we won't tolerate, what we should and shouldn't do. That's all I'm saying. That goes beyond comedy, tragedy, beyond spoken word, beyond music. And I'm very strong that women need to, of course, stand up and be, as we once were, warriors, and not fear something that's 6 inches long, or maybe less, or maybe more, when you weigh 100 or 250 pounds. Let's just face it, men are weaker than women physically, and we should not fear them, even though they can be assholes. However, there are no assholes on the Liddy and Spin. There are only people that like to call out their own assholism or deal with reality. Sorry, that was a monologue.
No,
was
that's
that funny?
good.
I don't think so.
Well, listen, I'm all for it. I think that, that seemed to be a very impassioned and oft delivered.
I love men and women, but I hate them both equally as well, because I want them to all be strong and loving people, and that's it.
Yeah.
So, and that's what stand-up comedy basically, and stand-up tragedy.
Well, that's why that's why I think CK was the king of it. I think, it
vulnerability.
Just completely. Yeah.
I mean, do you think
vulnerability?
You call up these women and say, like, give me your socks or I'm going to masturbate now. Do you think it was fair that his career was basically ruined for that?
I'm kind of insulted if somebody doesn't want to masturbate on my feet. Just saying.
Listen,
I don't have to answer that question. I think
the cancel culture thing. I think the ability to switch off careers based on anything is it's horrifying. It's heartbreaking.
Thank you. That's the right word, heartbreaking.
But Steve, also, it feels like, if I can generalize, the people who are doing this they're not into solutions. They're into sustaining the problems because it gives them.
Of course not.
And it's a power grab, and I can't believe the hysteria works because it.
But I think it goes back to sitting in the Colosseum, and when people were given the power to do this or this, it's exactly the same. Right. We love that mob mentality.
Well, look,
we sit there with knitting, looking at someone getting hanged.
Anyway, I believe as both women and men, people that have been victimized, we have a right to speak out, no doubt, and we are speaking out. But we have to realize that whatever really offends us personally, there is so much more fucking offense locally and politically that will never impact your world, that you kind of have to step back sometimes.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
Just go, shit, he grabbed my ass. That was horrible. Yes. But the woman over there just had her fucking head cut off. So we have to really have a balance in this, because people are not going to change. We can only change our opinion of how to deal with the reaction we don't like. So we all have the power to do that.
I think,
and especially women, we have the power to be stronger. And men, of course, they have the power to be more respectful. And the ones we deal with do.
Grabbing someone's ass is generous.
No way. Why not?
No,
excuse me. I didn't mean in that sense. I will allow mine to be the ass for the universe that needs to be grabbed.
Let me finish this before you paint me in a corner here. Before you get me canceled. No. When I say grabbing someone's career being killed because someone grabbed someone's ass, people's careers have been killed for things that people say.
You know what? Somebody grabs your ass, you don't like them, punch them in the fucking nose. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying the offense is. It's a too big a conversation to continue right here, because we're talking about comedy and as well as
Steve, how often are you offended, Steve? Like what offense?
Do you know what? I'm not. And the great Stephen Fry gave a lovely speech.
He's amazing. Stephen Fry's amazing.
If you put Stephen Fry and offense into YouTube, it's a lovely little speech that he gives, and it's so pithy and to the point, and it's not your business. It's not. What right have you got to be offended? It's like it's and it is down to that. It's not. Why should I respect your insane right to be offended?
That's so right. Because you know what? There are so hugely offensive things happening on such a greater scale that you really have to understand what the imbalance is.
Oh, I'm sorry, you're offended, are you? Yeah. Oh.
Thing is, you know what? I've never felt offended, insulted, I've never felt humiliated
No,
in
no.
my life.
Embarrassed.
And I wish more people would feel like I do. Like, oh, really? Fuck you. I don't like it. I'm not going to take it. You want to grab me? I don't want it. You trust me, your balls are more sensitive than my fucking ass, baby. Hello, just saying.
It seems peculiar that the more people, the blander the art, the more people want to pay for it now. And I'm really glad, because it seems to be that, you know, with Taylor Swift or Oasis or Coldplay, these are the only people doing 10 nights at Wembley Stadium now. And yet these are the people with, you know, with fans that are willing to pay $500 a ticket to see it. So,
Steve, and that is an offense to me, because
that is an offense to me. Exactly.
If they would have, if three Taylor Swift fans would have paid us $500 each, we'd be paying our rent.
Yeah.
But Steve, people don't want to see.
I gotta get down with Swifties.
People don't want to see things they can't do. They want to look in a mirror. They want to see things that they can do, and they want to celebrate the pedestrian bland experience.
Of course.
And it's I mean, look at the trajectory of television content. And my friend Dave Budden, who was on the podcast, he always said Ronald Reagan and Oprah Winfrey ruined America, but then he added Ronald Reagan, Oprah Winfrey, and Hill Street Blues ruined America. And I go, why Hill Street Blues? He goes, it was the first show that celebrated like the pedestrian experience, like waking up, pouring coffee, commuting to work. And then you go into
bottom line is this. Okay, bottom line is this.
I know what you mean.
Yes. I want everyone to be in their full power, to recognize what is petty and what is major, to not be offended by small things, to understand the world is not the way you want it to fucking be.
Absolutely.
People will not react the way you want them to.
Nope.
Be fucking strong enough to yourself to not be offended.
Yep.
And just fucking chill the motherfucking out. Yep. By the way, what was that? 50 million, and P. Diddy is still not getting free, because you know what?
Oh, no.
That is offensive.
No, P. Diddy, I mean, he's not
that's offense.
Yeah, well, so anyhow, he didn't get any bail. He has no bail denied. He's going to jail.
Denied, yeah.
But something like that, this is offensive. I'm just saying we have to modulate what the problem is. And in the meantime, that's what stand-up comedy, that's what stand-up tragedy, that's what we do here. We try to make a balance between the traumas that exist and the possibility of a reality that might be a little bit better for everybody.
Well, I think, amen to that. And I think those kind of shows that mix it all up, and you're like, I don't even know what I saw a show on Saturday because my friend recommended it. A guy is an Australian comic. He is a non-de plume, I suppose, or his character name is Gary Starr. It's called Gary Starr. He's a physical comedian that trained in clowning, but he does a 90 or a 60-minute show called Penguins, where he's naked except for a tailcoat and flippers, and he goes through the 90 Penguin classic novels, and basically
that's horrendous
representation of each one.
Was it good or horrible?
It was the most uplifting, joyous, fucking collective, communal,
who knew,
wondrous. I mean, it was a big hit in Edinburgh, but it was like,
what's it called again? Just give a little prop to the
Penguin, Gary Starr, the show, and
I'm waiting for Penguin with Colin Farrell. I hear that's really good too. It's Penguin, Colin Farrell, or Penguin with Gary Starr. We got two options.
I just the thing of still being able to go out and with an audience, a mixed audience, and go. Actually, that was pretty special. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, and it doesn't happen for, and it was 20 quid. People go, oh, I can't afford to go out. You're like, well, I've had a sort
that's
of
2 pints in Britain. Come on, give me a break.
It's like 5 coffees, and that memory is going to be burnt into my retina for the next 6 months. So it's like
Penguin with Gary Starr. You know who I really love in America? I really love Maria Bamford, who does a lot of interpersonal shit. She's like a transistor radio on Highwire.
Right.
But I love one of the specials she did, which only her parents were in the audience. Well, she's mimicking them.
Right. Okay.
Maria Bamford. Amazing.
Maria Bamford.
Yeah. And Nikki Glasser, too, who's kind of more of a sexy comic.
Oh, I know. Yes. Yeah. Okay.
You know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, I do know who you're talking about. And she's also.
So what's the immediate next for you then, Steve?
I'm off to do My Fair Lady at Christmas. So
please explain.
I do musicals. So I've been in, I was in Matilda, and then I played Fagin last year in Oliver, which was a fucking dream. And I'm off to do My Fair Lady. So yeah, all those kind of parts that I grew up watching. Yeah.
They're coming to fruition.
Coming to fruition. Finally, you know, old Jews a speciality. There you go. Who knew?
So I take it. All right. So I take it you're a Mel Brooks fan.
Of course, Jesus. Yeah. I mean, you know, Blazing Saddles and the producers and Young Frankenstein to three within 5 years of each other. I mean,
I know, amazing. No, but going back to Blazing Saddles, to watch it on HBO in America now, they've censored and edited out.
I know, it's fucking
apart. Like, well, you're ruining this movie.
The whole point of it. I mean, it's just, anyway. It's it beggars.
I'm surprised that was even allowed. I mean,
I know. Actually, when you look at that output of those films, it's like, you know, I mean, it's sort of, you think, and I mean, actually, still had 20 years to go. I mean, you know, there are other films that are pretty good, not amazing, but I think that kind of gift to culture, American culture, is, you know, I don't know.
Well, I still love Terry Gilliam for all he's done, for the most preposterous and wonderful, and sometimes, you know,
disastrous and joyous disasters. Yeah,
absolutely. And not to mention 17 years in the making, Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas.
Right. And Baron
von Munchausen filmed the opening scene in my favorite Belchite Civil War Battletown. I must give credit to that.
Well, yeah, he also had that weight with the Don Quixote film, and then when it finally was made, it wasn't very good. But that documentary is amazing.
Yeah, Steve, did you maybe part of a creative process, or just because you have to entertain yourself sometimes? I do this a bunch, where you just have to look at material from a different lens, like looking at Bad Lieutenant as a comedy, or looking at the first half of Full Metal Jacket as a comedy, like a really dark one. Yeah, and I think they're kind of masterpieces that actually allow the audience to take it from any angle.
Well, and Tim, I'm going to compare it to when I saw Fargo in the movie theater. And by the way, I love the Coen Brothers, but I did not laugh 1 minute until the wood chipper scene, and nobody else did. And I'm like, all right, that's enough.
I remember laughing at that scene and like people turning around and glaring at me.
Oh yeah, I was the only one, and I was furious because there was so much laughter during the rest of it. And by the way, I just saw a Coen Brothers film I'd never even heard of before, and it was absolutely atrocious compared to all the brilliance and the comedic genius.
Which one?
All the musicals, The Ballad of Boss Scruggs.
Oh yeah, haven't seen it, but yeah.
Never even heard of it. Saw it. I thought it was horrible. But look, Coen Brothers. I mean, No Country for Old Men. I mean, excuse me, so many other films.
Yeah.
Come on. Barton Fink, one of the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
Horrifically comedic. Anyway, Steve Furst, so happy to have you on this show.
Thank you. What an joy. Thank you. What a joy. And please send me that link as well. Thank you.
Which link would that be?
It was the link. Your Louis C.K. stalking.
No, the stalking bit. I'm going to send it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is the Lydia and Spin with Lydia Lunch, Tim Dahl, Steve Furst, comedian, writer, antagonizer, the heckler. Gotta love the title of that first comedic magazine in the UK, and soon to be in My Fair Lady at the West End, I assume, or what?
Actually, out of town, but then we're hoping it'll come into town next year.
No doubt it will. Thank you so much.